Oh, sorry. So if you can't tell, I am a very big EarthBound fan. EarthBound has been a huge part of my life for a very long time, and I've loved that. I've played Mother 3, but there's one big problem. I've never played the first one. Originally released on the Famicom in 1989, Mother 1, later officially titled EarthBound Beginnings in the West, is where everything started. The quirky humor, the modern day setting, the strange enemies, the heartfelt storytelling, it all began with that game. But it's also a product of its time. It's infamous for brutal random encounters, long stretches of grinding, and an old school design that can make it really hard to recommend, even to people like me who love EarthBound. I did try it out probably a decade ago, owning this 25th anniversary edition on the NES. It was like a fan project. It was very beautiful, but it still just wasn't for me. But something happened just a couple of weeks ago that finally gave me the push that I so much needed. A fan project that had been in development for almost 20 years finally released a complete recreation of EarthBound Beginnings inside the Super Nintendo version of EarthBound. A project that asked, what if Nintendo had made EarthBound Beginnings on the Super Nintendo? So thanks to that, I finally played EarthBound Beginnings. And before we get to the video talking about that, which I cannot wait to do, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave your thoughts down below. Are you a EarthBound super fan like me? Of course, I've got the Fan Gamer shirt and hat, which is well over like 12 years old at this point. You can see how well worn it is. That's how much I've worn it. Or are you not even, remotely interested in EarthBound? So hopefully this video gets you into that, because it's a wonderful series, and this game that we're talking about today is very good. So let's go. So before we get into the history and even the gameplay, let's talk about what EarthBound Beginnings is actually about. Set in modern day America rather than a fantasy world, which is a really great point of difference, by the way. You play as a young boy who discovers that strange paranormal events are happening all across the land, and it all starts at your house. Guided by a book that leads you to a mysterious place called Magicant, you're tasked with collecting 8 melodies while uncovering the truth behind your family's past and the psychic powers that are tied to it. Now, it's worth noting that when the game does start, you get this setup about your great-grandparents. This does come into play much later, and the payoff was pretty interesting in the end, so definitely stick with it. And by the way, this video is mostly spoiler-free, just in case you want to play it after you watch this. And along the way, you're joined by a small cast of unlikely companions. A bullied child genius, Lloyd, a young psychic girl, Anna, searching for her missing mother, and a tough gang leader named Teddy. What starts as a funky, quirky road trip full of oddball characters and bizarre humor slowly evolves into something more emotional than you originally thought, laying the groundwork for many of the themes and ideas that EarthBound would later become famous for. And if you're a fan of EarthBound, I won't spoil the ending or anything else. All I'll say is that it's just fascinating to see how this game actually ties to EarthBound. I mean, I kind of knew it, but I also haven't experienced it properly, so I couldn't fully appreciate it, but it was very fun. So now we've talked about what the game is. Let's actually talk about the significance of it historically. And to do that, we need to go all the way back to 1989. EarthBound Beginnings, known as Mother in Japan, released that year on the Famicom, in Japan, of course. There was actually a finished, translated Western version. It was called EarthBound, 2 words, ready to ship, but Nintendo canceled it. That version, however, didn't just disappear into the catacombs of Nintendo's whatever. It managed to leak years later as a prototype cartridge, translation and all, and the community that found it gave it its own nickname before Nintendo ever officially touched the game again, EarthBound Zero. So for over 2 decades, that leaked prototype was the only way an English-speaking audience could really play this game. Fast forward to 2015, 26 years after the original Japanese release, Nintendo finally gave this game an official Western release on the Wii U Virtual Console under the name EarthBound Beginnings. I still remember watching the Nintendo Direct, I'm pretty sure it was a Direct when this happened, and thinking, oh my gosh, Nintendo actually acknowledged that this exists after 26 years. Crazy, right? This is a game they let sit almost forgotten for over a quarter of a century before deciding that it was worth acknowledging. And I want to give props to the huge EarthBound fan community for, at least I feel, having some sort of part in that decision to release this game finally. Because if you know anything about EarthBound, it really is the black sheep series that I really don't think Nintendo cares what the fans do with it. There's a lot I could unpack there in like a dedicated video entirely to that, but yeah, if you know, you know. But this game is really important because this is where everything the series is known for actually starts. The collision of mundane, small-town Americana with strange, sometimes unsettling subject matter, is not an EarthBound invention. It was actually baked into Mother 1 from the beginning. Series creator Shigesato Itoi, his sensibility as a writer is really on display here. I mean, without that game, EarthBound does not have a foundation, and Mother 3 doesn't have a lineage to build on. And I also want to be honest about the parts of the original that don't hold up well if you play it now, because it is relevant to everything I'm about to say in the next section here. The NES version is really rough. The random encounter rate is notoriously brutal, fights every few steps, no visibility into what's coming, no way to plan around it. It's the single most common reason people give up on this game. And it's a real legitimate barrier, not just old game jank you wave away with nostalgia. I mean, I'm bringing this up now because, well, before we get to that, don't forget to subscribe, because almost 85% of the people that watch my channel on the regular are not subscribed. So if you would love to stay in touch with weekly videos, retrospectives, lists, top 10s, reviews, all that fun stuff, I would love to have you here. So let's continue on to why this is so important and why I love this remake so much. So here's where things get interesting. The version I played for this video obviously wasn't the original NES release at all, as I alluded to in the intro. Instead, this is a fan-made ROM hack that transforms a copy of the Super Nintendo version of EarthBound into a complete remake of Mother 1. It's not a new game necessarily, it's more like an alternate timeline where Nintendo decided to remake the original using the EarthBound engine. Now I'm going to leave a link in the description on how you guys can acquire this. I do think it's important to say that please try and have a copy of EarthBound if you can in order to play this in a morally correct way. But if you don't, please support any official release of EarthBound, whether it's through merchandise or just subscribing to the Switch, Nintendo Switch Online, so you can play it there and at least give some sort of kickback to Nintendo, because in some way, shape, or form, I still want to show them support that I love these games, and I think you should too. Now, what's even more impressive is how long this project took to become a reality. Development first began around 2007, passing through multiple teams over the years before finally releasing almost 20 years later. There's an incredible amount of dedication for something created purely out of passion for the series. And that EarthBound community I mentioned before, yeah, it's legit. I mean, so many fan projects have come from the love of this one game, and what we're covering here today is just a small piece of it all. And this isn't just Mother 1 with prettier graphics. The goal is to recreate the game as faithfully as possible while asking one simple question. What if Nintendo had released a Super Nintendo version of Mother alongside EarthBound? Everything from the visuals to the dialogue, I mean, it just feels authentic as a first-party Super Nintendo release. And I can tell you, this feels like the real deal. Because it's built on EarthBound's engine, it also inherits many of the improvements that make it so much more approachable. Enemies now appear on the overworld map instead of relying on random encounters. The rolling HP meter returns. I'm so thankful for this. If you've played this game, it's seriously a game changer. And a lot of the rough edges that made the NES version infamous for being almost unplayable have been smoothed out. It doesn't change what makes the original game what it was. I mean, it just makes it much easier to appreciate, enjoy, and recommend. So now that we've talked about all of that, let's talk about how this game plays, because it goes much further than, oh, this is just a standard remake. Believe me, it's really good. On the NES, combat is pure menu-based turn-taking. There's no visibility into what's coming. There's no health that rolls with the health meter. I mean, you get hit, that's it. You don't get a chance to react. In the remake here, you can see things on the map. You can choose to avoid fights if you don't want to. You can run away from them too. And that rolling HP bar changes the tension of combat in a way that's hard to describe until you've actually watched your health tick down instead of snap down. And that's important because you can give yourself time to heal if you're quick enough. There's a genuine difference between, oh, I got hit for 40 points versus I got hit for 40 points, but I still have maybe 5 seconds to do a life up spell and watch that number slowly go back up to where I want it to go. It just gives you a bit more breathing room. And again, once you play it, you understand what I'm talking about. And here's the question I kept coming back to while playing. Does stripping out all that NES era friction change what the game actually is? Or does it remove the bad kind of difficulty and leave the good, weird kind of motherness completely intact? Yes, I think that's a good thing. And I think if you're somebody who's tried to play this before and bounced off, or somebody who's looked at it and thought, no, this is too much of a barrier for entry, this is the definitive version of this game, I would say, if you just want to go in and have fun and have a good time, which is what gaming is about, isn't it? I think if games are just inherently too hard, I can't handle it. Sure, call me a newbie, call me whatever, but I play games that have fun, not to struggle. And the original one was a struggle. Now, despite being a fairly straightforward JRPG on paper, it's the little moments between the major story beats that will keep you going. I mean, walking into a new town, chatting to people, discovering another strange piece of dialogue, hearing a new piece of music, it's that constant sense of curiosity that makes this game so memorable to me. Even when you're doing something as simple as figuring out where to go next, it always feels like the world has another surprise waiting for you. It's a bit smaller compared to EarthBound, of course, because this is a remake of an NES game, so don't go in expecting your life to change or expecting massive hours of time in terms of gameplay, but there's a lot of meaningful stuff happening here. Now, I would recommend playing this with a guide. I'm going to leave a guide that I used with my playthrough down in the link below. I think I was able to beat this game around 10 to 12 hours. I mean, you can just play this totally blind, but this guide that I'm going to recommend to you guys saved me so much guesswork, and I felt that I was able to enjoy the experience so much more because of it. Now, going into this, I almost expected EarthBound Beginnings to feel like a rough prototype of EarthBound. Instead, what surprised me the most was how strong the identity already was. I mean, this has that same EarthBound ability to make you smile one moment and then feel uneasy the next. I mean, with some lines like this, yeah, I had chills, and not in a good way. When I'm laying in bed at like midnight and I read this line, I'm like, oh boy, I need to sleep with a nightlight on. I mean, you'll be wandering through a goofy little town, talking to the eccentric characters, and then suddenly the mood shifts, the music changes, and you're left with this feeling, ooh, something's happening. It's very subtle, but it's very effective, and that's the series at its best, honestly. And I almost want to say that calling this series, or even just this game in general, quirky, almost kind of undersells the experience. I mean, sure, it's funny, it's strange, it's charming, but beneath all of that is this constant sense of melancholy and, dare I even say, mystery. EarthBound perfected that balance. Mother 3 pushed it even further and even stranger, dare I say, but the blueprint was already there in the first game, and it's been brought to life even more with this fan project. Now, I think it would be a mistake to not talk about the music of EarthBound Beginnings because it's so good. And the music of EarthBound is just so deeply tied to my DNA at this point. I mean, I love playing guitar. I've had a recording studio for many years. 5 years ago now, I did a Kickstarter for an EarthBound vinyl record called Boundless. Playing EarthBound Beginnings, it was almost like a nostalgia trip, hearing some of these songs again and hearing some of the newer songs, new old songs that are present within EarthBound Beginnings as well. So the score was written by Keiichi Suzuki and Hirozaku Tanaka. Suzuki, coming from a background working as a musician outside of games, and Tanaka, already established at Nintendo with work on titles like Metroid and Kid Icarus, they together created something that sounds much more ambitious than an NES game had any right to. It moves constantly between styles like jazz and blues vibes, strange electronic tracks, and some interesting atmospheric pieces that subtly unsettle locations before anything even happens on screen. The music is absolutely part of the storytelling itself. And this is all obvious with the premise of the game, the 8 melodies. The game's structure is built entirely around finding them. It's built around music. So you spend the journey collecting fragments of a literal song. And before playing EarthBound Beginnings, I already knew some of these tracks through EarthBound and the series' reputation, but I didn't fully appreciate how much the Mother series' musical identity was already here from the start. What's especially interesting in the remake is how the same compositions feel fuller and more expressive thanks to the upgraded sound hardware, because it's a Super Nintendo game. Everything has a lot more space to breathe, much more clean layering, richer tone. So even familiar tracks feel better, slightly recontextualized. I mean, consider the fact that the NES had very limited sound channels and the Super Nintendo had that much more. So it gives the soundtrack so much more life, and it sounds so much more full too. And that's what makes this whole soundtrack really effective overall for this version. I mean, by the time the credits roll, it's just a wonderful experience musically. And I want to give props to the team behind the project here for their hard work on bringing the music up to speed with the Super Nintendo version, and even contributing some original tracks as well, which didn't sound out of place at all. There's a lot of songs from EarthBound that show up here too, like the store themes and battle themes. If you've played EarthBound, this whole experience feels like a welcome home for fans like me. And like I said before, it was just this nostalgia trip down memory lane. I just felt so in my happy place to experience this game. So stepping back from the remake itself for a moment, I think it's worth talking about the Mother series as a whole. It's such a strange franchise because Despite its influence, it still feels incredibly niche. Ask most gamers who Ness is, and they'll probably say, oh, that random kid from Super Smash Bros. But ask them where he's actually from, and a surprising number probably wouldn't be able to tell you. So for a series that's inspired so many developers and built such a passionate fan base, that's a pretty unusual place to be honest with you. And yet maybe that's exactly what makes this game and this whole series so special. It was never a blockbuster franchise. If you know the history of EarthBound, not selling very many copies and now going for thousands of dollars as a complete in-box title, it's very strange. But the people who love these games really love them. I mean, take it from somebody who really loves this series. They're the reason why Mother 3 has a English translation. They're the reason why EarthBound Beginning stayed relevant long before Nintendo released it in the West. And now they're the reason that this remake even exists. Nearly 20 years of work created entirely by fans who simply wanted more people to experience where it all began. And that's the main reason I'm even making this video. Of course I wanted to play it, but I also love giving these games the spotlight. And I think that's the real legacy of the Mother series. Not the massive sales numbers or the endless sequels. I mean, there's only 3 games in the series anyway, but rather it's a community that has kept these games alive when Nintendo largely has moved on. Every time there's a gap, whether it's a lack of a Western release with EarthBound 0, the absence of an official Mother 3 release, or even just making the original game much more accessible with fan projects like this, fans have really stepped up. This remake isn't just another ROM hack, it's the latest example of just how much one game in one series can really mean to people. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please, I would encourage you guys to check this game out. I've left all the links in the description. I think you're really gonna have a great time with it. If you've never played EarthBound before and you want to dabble into something that's kind of EarthBound light, because this really is, you know, the first game in the series, and for story reasons, I haven't said a whole lot because it does tie into EarthBound, but I think it's a wonderful game, wonderful experience, and I hope you guys enjoy it just as much as I did. So thanks so much again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave your thoughts down below, and we'll see you in another video soon. Bye-bye.